Welcome to Temple Tuesday. I'm Carrie Ann Hoops on High Five Live. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share a message with you today on this rainy Tuesday. We love it in Arizona when we get a little bit of water. I just wish it had come a couple weeks ago in Utah when they had these crazy fires. I have been so mindful of a really interesting topic. Many times I have been asked in regards to the temple, why we don't go to the temple on Sundays. Why is that? And before I forget, tell us where you're tuning in from. What temple are you closest to? What temple do you attend, or what temple were you married? Tell us a story about the temple or an experience about the temple that we can share with others. This question was posed to me more than one time, handful of times. Why don't we go to the temple on on Sundays? Why is it that the temple is closed on Sundays? Well, the temple's closed on Mondays as well. Somebody recently had told me that there are temples that are open on Mondays. And we had the opportunity one time to go on a Monday at the San Diego temple. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were temple workers in the San Diego temple, and their ward was filled with temple workers. I don't remember the numbers, but I know it was in the 20 or 30s of ordinance workers that were in their ward. And they set aside a special day where all these ordinance workers from the ward took over being in charge of running the temple that day, even though it was a regular day where people were closed, where, people knew that the temple was closed. Well, we had an opportunity to move. We had bought a new home, and so we moved. And we really wanted to attend this really unique experience to go to the temple on a Monday. It was on a Memorial Day. And so we moved our home and we drove to San Diego. And well, let me back up. We moved our home and literally dumped it in our garage. We didn't unpack. Anybody that knows me knows that I have rules about moving, and I like things to be done like in 24 hours. And so that was a big stretch for me, but we were really excited for this opportunity to go be in the temple with the other saints, people that my husband had grown up with and their parents and things like that. Well, we moved our home. We unloaded the U-Haul, dumped it at the house, jumped in the car, and drove to San Diego. And when we arrived, early that morning, we had gotten a babysitter for our 3 little kids and decided, we're going to spend the day there. We had brought lunches, and they gave us a little piece of paper that said, here's your schedule of everything you need to do. And it was all day long. Now, normal ordinance workers that work there regularly, they have a schedule of kind of their rotation and where they go. I had never experienced that. And so I knew at this time I needed to be here and this time I needed to be here. And they had it all organized and set for us to maximize our time to be able to do the most amount of work. And that was such a neat opportunity to be given a schedule of what to do. And at the same time, I was very mindful of the fact that we were there on an ordinary day that wasn't usually open. So it was extraordinary that we had the opportunity to be there and to serve the Lord in the house of the Lord. Well, many times people have asked, why isn't the temple opened on Sunday? And I don't know that I've ever given the right answer or knew the answer, but in thinking about this last week, I was thinking about why is it that the temple is closed even on Mondays? We know Sundays is the Sabbath, and the day of the Sabbath is a special day. We know the song, Saturday is a special day. It's the day we get ready for Sunday, but it's more than that. I, for one, growing up, I regularly attended church, and my grandparents would pick me up and we'd go have breakfast. I was of another faith, and we would go over to the church in Oceanside, California. And there was donuts, and I loved going to church. And then at one point in my life, I would regularly go with my uncle. My Uncle Jeff would take me, and we would usually go get breakfast or we'd go get lunch. And I always loved that day. Well, I joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and things are a little bit different. We don't go out to eat. We keep the Sabbath day holy in a different way of not spending money, of not going out and about. We don't go to the beach, and we don't go to Disneyland, and we don't do these things that pull us away from our focus on the Lord. And this has been something on my mind so much. I have a son. My oldest son is in the mission field in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He just arrived there this week. And last Sunday, I just kept thinking about, as he was getting ready, not the one 2 days ago, but the one 2 weeks ago, as he was preparing to enter the field in Colorado and to go serve the saints and those not of our faith in Colorado. And my mind was filled with thoughts of him. And what was he thinking on that Sabbath day? He had the opportunity while he was in the MTC to meet Elder Neil A. Anderson, one of the apostles. And it was on a Sunday evening, and his excitement to tell us that he had met an apostle and the pictures that he had gotten and the amazing spirit that was there when he was in the MTC as this apostle spoke. And I thought Sunday is a special day. And so fast forwarding, as I was thinking about my Colorado and being a part of the Lord's army, how important those Sundays are to rejuvenate and to replenish. And I found this talk, and I can't do it justice by just paraphrasing. And so I would like to read parts of this. This was from Elder Bednar, and the talk was called Exceeding Great and Precious Promises. I love that he talks about Heavenly Father's plan of happiness, which include doctrines and ordinances and covenants. And he says the exceedingly great and precious promises whereby we can become partakers of divine nature. Further in the talk, he says, remembering the promises. He shares something from President Snow about the object of life and the motive of our Heavenly Father is sending us here to put us in mortality of our Heavenly Father is so that it's a holy calling, that we can be here, that there are things that are constantly transitioning, that there's constantly things that are getting in our way, that are distracting us. And he says the Sabbath day and the holy temple are two specific sources of divine help instituted by God to assist us in rising above the level and corruption of the world. And I thought, that's it. The temple is a place where we walk in, or we're on the grounds, and the world can melt away. The corruption of the world, the worries of the world go away if we let it, if we are in the right frame of mind, if we're in the right spirit to let it. He says, we initially may think that the overarching purposes of keeping the Sabbath day holy and attending the temple are related but distinctive. I believe, this is Elder Bednar, I believe, however, that there are two purposes are precisely the same and work together to strengthen us spiritually and individuals in our home. Well, I've come to understand that Sundays, the temple is not open because that is a day where we are remembering Christ, where we get to renew those covenants for ourselves. And in the temple, we know that we do the covenants for others. Yes, when we go in, we do it once for ourselves, but every other time subsequently when we go in, we do it for other people. So Sundays, that day is set for us to renew our covenants, for us to remember the sacrifice that Christ made for us to bear our burdens and to feel our pains and to know our hearts, our agony and our joy. The Sabbath was created after God created all things. That's the day he rested. And he sees that day fit for us to rest, for us to recognize our value and renew our covenants with him so that we can remember and we can focus ourselves towards the Lord. The Sabbath is God's time, a sacred time, specifically set apart for worshiping him and for receiving and remembering his great and precious promises. Like Elder Bednar had said in the beginning, the name of the talk, Exceeding Great and Precious Promises, he knew that we needed those promises to carry us through our weeks. I love this this thought that he gave. Thus on the Sabbath, we worship the Father in the name of the Son by participating in ordinances and learning about and receiving and remembering and renewing covenants. On this holy day, our thoughts and actions and demeanor are signs we give to God as an indicator of our love for him. And I've heard so often that our outward expression is an inward expression of how we love him. The Sabbath for me has always been a special day. And there are times when we had little kids, when our kids were little, we would take them on the temple grounds. There's been times where we've traveled and we've sat on the temple grounds after we've attended our sacrament meeting and just felt the spirit of the temple, even though we couldn't go in it. And this has made me mindful of, as we taught our children, or did the best that we could to teach our children when they were little, that it was important to set those standards of what our Sabbath would be. Our Sabbaths have always been a protected family time, and it became especially protected when my husband was serving as the bishop. And he has served in lots of leadership roles. I've served in lots of leadership roles. And there's a lot of time on those Sundays, on those Sabbath days, where we have been pulled from the family, where we have been asked to serve the Lord for many hours away from the home. But there's always been a constant, one of us, to be there and to remind the kids that we don't need to watch that TV show, that we can play this game, or we can read this book, or we can do these things that turn our hearts and our minds to the Lord, so that during the week we have that opportunity to have renewed our covenants, to then look towards the temple. And it's a day for the family for us. It's a day where we have always made sure that it was a focus. On the day that I was mindful of my son leaving the next day to go to the field, I traveled for work for the very first time. And that was really, really hard on me. I struggled because I have never traveled on Sunday for work. I've never had to purchase food. I was one that, as we would travel, I would pack food and we wouldn't stop and buy food or things like that, because we've always avoided traveling on Sunday. Well, I couldn't avoid it on this day because I had 8 a.m. meetings in Utah. And I felt all these justifications. I could take a 5 a.m. flight. Well, I prayed about it. And I had gone to the temple to figure out it. I was really struggling with this reality that I needed to travel on a Sunday, because the Sabbath is so sacred to me. And I went to the temple and I had prayed about it. And I knew I was supposed to be up there that Sunday evening, to prepare for these meetings and to be ready for this new job and these new meetings. And my flight was delayed. And it was delayed again, and then it was delayed again. And again, I questioned, why am I traveling on a Sunday? I got confirmation that I was supposed to do this so that I could be where I needed to be. I landed at my destination. And I got in the car, and I didn't even make it around to barely exit. And the light on the car came on, the check engine light came on, and the car didn't sound right. And I turned around and took it back to the rental car. And again, I questioned, why am I traveling on Sunday? I'm making this lady work. I've now made 2 people work. And I struggled so hard. And I questioned, I prayed about this. This is where I'm supposed to be on this day. I don't travel on Sunday. Heavenly Father, why am I feeling like my answer was wrong? And I questioned it. I got a new car and I got on my way and I got to the hotel. And when I walked into the hotel, I had the opportunity to bear my testimony to somebody in the hotel lobby They had recognized me from some things online for some of my temple images and recognized me. And because of all of those things, I was able to bear my testimony about the temple and the importance of the temple in my life, to travel and photograph the temples wherever I can go. I wasn't there for those meetings. I wasn't there to photograph the temple. I was there for a new job that I took on. But I was in the right place at the right time on a day when I thought I shouldn't have been traveling, to bear my testimony to somebody about the temple. And that has been on my mind so strongly, because I have had people in the past say, general authorities travel on Sunday, and so have to travel when they have to do this. And they've even said things like the apostles and the prophets and things like that. And I said, I don't care. I feel strongly I don't want to. This is my choice. I don't want to travel. Well, I hope it's the last time I have to travel on a Sunday, unless I know that that's when I'm supposed to be traveling. It is something that I have avoided to this point, to where I haven't had to do that. And it was really, really hard on me, obviously. But because I listened to the Lord, I was there and I was able to bear my testimony about the temple to the right person. I hope that person recognizes the spirit of the temple, and maybe I was able to give something. I invited them. I told them about some of the temples that are near the location where I was staying at my destination there in Utah. Told them, they're not open tomorrow, but you can go on the grounds, but go smell the flowers. And I talked about why the temple was closed on Monday, so that those workers could have that day off, because the temple runs for 5 days. And on Sundays, it's the day of rest for us. And on Mondays, it's the day of rest for those ordinance workers. Elder Bednar went on to say the holy temple, the Lord has always commanded his people to build temples, holy places in which worthy saints perform sacred gospel ceremonies and ordinances for them and for the dead. Temples are the most holy of all the places to worship. It doesn't get any holier than to be able to worship in the temple. And a temple is literally the house of the Lord, a sacred space specifically set apart for worshiping God and receiving and remembering those precious promises. It's so important, brothers and sisters, that we recognize the Sabbath, and that the Sabbath worship is as important as going to the temple and giving, if not more, because we're renewing those covenants for ourselves. Elder Bednar goes on to say, please note that the Sabbath day in the temple are sacred time and sacred space specifically set apart for worshiping and remembering for his children, for us. And we have to be mindful of that, to listen, to pray. I know I was where I was supposed to be. I don't know why. I had attended sacrament that day. I had renewed my covenants. I had done everything I was asked to do. And I still questioned, why is this supposed to happen? But I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I was supposed to be there at that moment in that hotel lobby with that person with the question, to bear my testimony about the temple and the importance of the temple. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share a message. I'm so thankful for my High Five Live family. It is a team of people who love the Lord and direct their energy, their time, and their talents to be able to share these messages and to be able to help others at a time where maybe they needed that quick little message to remember that their Heavenly Father loved them. I'm so thankful for each one of those High Five Live members who enrich my life, that remind me of the importance of the temple, the sacred responsibilities of the Sabbath, and to keep it holy. Every single one of them, Corey, Michael, Dave, Pam, Gainalyn, they love the Lord like I've never known anybody love the Lord, and share their testimonies, because there's no monetary gain, there's no visible gain, because they love the Lord. Please continue to watch High Five Live and share these messages. If you know that it'll help somebody else, share this message. Thank you so much for all the support that you give to us. We feel it. We know it. We're so grateful for it. And thank you for always tuning in for Temple Tuesday. The temple is a special place, and find yourself there on a grounds or in a temple this week and share your love for the Lord with somebody else. High five, friends. Have a good day.